I'm Camila Reyes, 30, from Austin, Texas. In the eyes of the world, I'm a lawyer with a solid background, the daughter of two respected law professors at Northwestern. But the truth is, I'm just living a role that someone else wrote for me. Since I was a child, my life has revolved around debates, law courses, and dinners with people from the legal world. My father always said, "We don't build houses, we build arguments." And I, the only daughter, was expected to continue that tradition. I never objected. I did well in school, and went to law school as part of a predetermined responsibility. On graduation day, my parents cried with pride. I smiled softly, knowing that I wouldn't be able to say what I really wanted to say. In truth, I didn't want to be in a courtroom. I wanted to be in an empty space, with a pen and a sketch. I wanted to design places where people felt safe. But I couldn't say it out loud, not in a family that considered architecture a red-hot hobby, not for the kids of law. And so I split my life in two. During the day, I was a support solution. At night, I was Blueprint Fox, an anonymous architect, living in every design submitted under a pseudonym. I could hide everything. But I forgot that true passion cannot be nurtured forever. My double life ran like a well-oiled machine. During the day, I wore white-rimmed glasses, presented documents to high-ranking partners, and nodded approvingly during long legal meetings. Everyone thought, Camila Reyes is the epitome of a successful kid, professional, humble, tough. But at night, things changed. I returned to my small apartment, swapped my blazer for a loose t-shirt, tied my hair up, and turned on my drawing screen. On the other side of the screen were unfamiliar clients, a young couple dreaming of their first home, an artist in need of a light-filled studio space, or a single mother looking to turn her backyard into a haven for her 3 children. They didn't know who I was, only that I was Blueprint Fox, the person who turns dreams into living spaces. Everything was going so smoothly that sometimes I thought I could live like this forever. But then a special design changed everything. It was the Willow Loop project, a small, eco-friendly housing complex with a shared courtyard, green space, and natural ventilation. I designed it as a whisper of peace, something I had never felt before. When I sent off the final drawings, I thought it would be like any other project, disappearing onto a USB drive in an architecture office somewhere in California. But a few weeks later, I got an email from the creative director of Terra House Development. They wanted to meet me. Not over Zoom. Not through an agent. In person. They said, "We've been following Blueprint Fox's work for a while. Willow Loop is groundbreaking. We'd like to invite you to be our lead architecture professor for our upcoming project. But there's one condition, we need to know who you are." I reread the email at least 10 times. My hands were running, my heart was racing. 6 years of secrecy, and it could all be over with one appointment. But what scared me wasn't the opportunity, it was the fact that I wanted answers. It was the first time I truly admitted, I didn't want to live in the shadows anymore. I didn't want to be the one helping others build a home, while I didn't have a place that I could call real life. I didn't respond to Terra House's emails for 3 days. Every time I opened my inbox, my heart felt as if someone had grabbed it. I wrote back, then deleted. Rewrote, then deleted again. I wasn't afraid of the job, I knew I was qualified. The only thing holding me back was the fear that if I said who I was, everything would fall apart. My family knew nothing about my second life. Not about the apartment across town where I set up my studio. Not about the projects I'd completed all over the place. To them, I was Camila, the stable, the right-minded, the reliable one. The expectations always shrunk me down like a shirt that was just right. I thought I could quietly decline. But then, like a joke, things started to spiral out of control. One afternoon, during a break at the law firm, I saw my colleague, Brian, reading an article on his laptop. The headline was eye-catching: "Who is Blueprint Fox? The work of the underground architect goes viral." I leaned in, curious. The article contained images of the Willow Loop design, along with stylistic comparisons to several famous architects. But what gave me a little gasp was the conclusion. A source says Blueprint Fox works at night and has an IP address that logs in from Austin, Texas. Is this therapy a double life? I sank back into my seat, my ears ringing. For 6 years, I had kept everything a secret. No selfies, no text messages, no trace beyond PDFs that had been sent on time. But I might have given it away. A misdirected email. An unnamed metadata file. Some trace beyond my control. I started going through all my correspondence. Changing my passwords, deleting my old accounts. Shutting down my website. Every day that passed I could feel a time bomb ticking. Worse yet, Tara House emailed again. This time, it was clear: "We understand that it's important to remain anonymous. But in order to invite you to the official game, we need to verify your identity. Please don't miss out on the opportunity to shape the future of sustainable architecture." I burst into tears. Not because I was afraid of being discovered, but because for the first time, I felt trapped not only by family expectations, but by my own choice to live a double life. If only I had been brave enough from the beginning. If only I could say that I was both a lawyer and an architecture professor. But I had kept myself in a perfect shell until now, and breaking out of it meant facing myself. 3 days after the second email from Tara House, I received a call from my father while I was at the office. He rarely called during work hours, so my heart instantly tightened. "Camila," he said, "this morning someone sent me a very impressive design. Willow Loop. They said you should be the one to sign it. Do you know anything about this?" I stood still in the empty room. No one else could hear, but I felt as if the entire office could see through the mask I'd worn for far too long. A long silence stretched between both ends of the line. Finally, he simply asked, "Did you design it? Why didn't you tell your parents?" That question seemed simple, but it forced me to face years of denying myself. I answered with the only truth I had. Because I was afraid. I was afraid you wouldn't see me as my own person, only as an extension of the Reyes legacy. That evening, I wrote my resignation letter. Not out of anger or impulse, but because I needed to write it. I needed to leave the desk at the family law firm, to step away from a wall of honor built from other people's expectations. Finally, I sent the email to Tara House. "I am Camila Reyes. Blueprint Fox is me. If the opportunity is still open, I'm ready to take on the role of lead architect. And this time, I won't hide." A week later, I stood in front of my new office, a small building by the river in Austin, with a simple sign, "Second Foundation Studio." It wasn't flashy, but it was something I had built from the ground up, under my real name. My family didn't come to the opening ceremony. But that afternoon, I received a handwritten letter from my father, the first one in many years. Inside was a printout of the willow loop design, with a simple note. I don't fully understand what you're doing. But I'm trying. And I'm proud that you chose your own path. I cried, not out of fear this time, but out of relief. I had lost a lot to get here, but finally, I no longer had to live a divided life. A year after I left the law firm, the morning sunlight poured into my studio like a gentle blessing. Sketches hung on the walls, tiny wooden models lined the shelves, and soft jazz played from an old speaker, all creating a space I once only dared to imagine. Now, it's my reality. Second Foundation Studio has completed 3 projects, all focused on sustainable housing and spaces built for healing. One of them, Willow Loop, has just been nominated for a National Community Design Award. But for me, the greatest reward is the feeling of finally living as my true self. Every now and then, my parents still call. The conversations are softer now, though still carry their silences. My mother sends me photos of gardens she thinks are beautiful, just your style. My father once quietly visited the studio, stood in front of a project model, and said just one sentence. Solid. Precise. That's your craftsmanship. I am no longer Blueprint Fox, and not even the Camila Reyes they once defined. I am simply myself, a builder, a storyteller through brick, light, and air. I don't need to choose between love and expectation. I just need the courage to redraw the lines, not to separate 2 worlds, but to connect them, in my own way.